first, and then Twitch. What is up, everyone? What is up? Welcome to the Civitai Friday guest creator stream. I am Tyler. Today, man, I got a good one for you guys. So, okay, let me just prelude this with saying that we're going to cover a lot of ground with today's guest creator, and I want him to be able to get through everything. You guys are going to have a bunch of questions. Let's try to funnel a lot of the questions into the chat, and then I'll kind of pick them out for him because I want Spence to be able to flow here. He's created like a whole presentation for you guys. There is a workflow page that he uploaded to. The link is pinned in the Twitch chat at the top, where you can download 2 different comfy workflows as well as a TouchDesigner .toe file, and that's something that Spence is going to go over. But just a short intro. I've been working alongside Spence on just like personal stuff, and he's helped me out with a whole lot over the past like 5 to 6 months. I've been really fortunate to be able to call him a friend now. Spence works for Runway ML and does a lot of audio reactive stuff, and this man is insane, and I can't wait to see what he's going to show us. So use today as an opportunity to really like kind of expand your thought process as far as what's possible with all this stuff. If you're not someone who is like, if not all of this interests you, pick and choose the pieces that do and start implementing that into the things you guys create. And I'm really excited to learn this. Without further ado, Spence, why don't you introduce yourself and give the people a little bit of a background, and then we can dive into it. And let's just do a sound check real quick so I can make sure Twitch can hear you good. Wait. One more time.
Check. 1 2 1 2.
Twitch, can you guys hear Spence? Boom. I think we're good. Yes, they got you. So yeah, Spence, short intro. I'm gonna take my camera off the screen so people can see you and not me.
Cool.
Where is boom? There's Spence. There he is.
All right, so quick intro about me. So I've been making like visuals for about a decade, for mostly for musical performances. So I'm extremely inspired by music, and kind of music is what drove me to start exploring technology and using it to create visuals, especially like specifically to express kind of what I feel when I listen to music, and kind of create things that really express the music itself. So these are kind of some of the GIFs that I started off making in the 2010s using Cinema 4D. And then I ended up doing lots of professional concert tour visuals and also virtual production visuals for a lot of really big tours for his company called Silent Partner Studio. And I also was developing kind of like these custom systems and like technical integrations to make different creative possibilities happen for a lot of these shows, like integrating lighting with the visuals, like using multiple moving LED screens and figuring out how to map onto them. And then I started getting super into AI during 2022, kind of around the time Midjourney came out, got into Disco Diffusion. I was training some StyleGAN models, then into Stable Diffusion, started using GPT-3 before ChatGPT was a thing. And then was just really trying to explore how we can use it to make video. And specifically, I integrate a lot of the image generation workflows with TouchDesigner in order to automate them and bring them into the kind of the video space, and also just to create custom systems kind of to express my own ideas. And a lot of the components I use inside of TouchDesigner are made by .simulate. And yeah, TouchDesigner, I'll kind of go over it a little bit later, but it's essentially a node-based program, not too dissimilar from Comfy UI, but it's built from the ground up to make real-time visuals, and it also interacts with APIs. You can run Python in it to generate anything you want, and so that's going to be part of the workflow today. And then, yeah, after I did lots of AI stuff, I ended up training a fine-tune of model scope called Zero Scope, and released that, and that's kind of what ended up getting me into Runway, and so now I work at Runway as a researcher as well, and I also make some art for myself and for certain clients as well on the side. So yeah, that's what I do, and this is kind of some of the work that I make, and we're gonna be going over kind of how I make these purely from scratch today. So we're gonna try to get as close to this kind of stuff as possible. And so this is going to use multiple programs. We're going to start off in this program called Knotch, which is not a free program, but I'm basically going to be using it to do real-time 3D modeling and animation. And then we're going to be taking those animations, bringing them into Comfy. And then after we render those animations in Comfy, we're going to bring them into TouchDesigner and then use audio reactive like beat detection to then change the speed of the clip so that we can like surge through them with the beat. And then we're going to kind of composite them together and create the final kind of audio-visual composite. And then once we do that, I'll kind of show you the full system I use. So I'm not going to be able to build everything from scratch, but we're going to get as far as we can. So first off, I'm going to start off in Knotch. So this program Knotch is it's a real-time visual effects software and graphics software that's used for a lot of the biggest tours in the world. It is not very free at all. It's kind of expensive, unfortunately, but there is a learning version that isn't that is reasonably priced. So it's like ends up being like $75. And you can use that to learn it, and you'll be able to like save your projects and stuff, but you can only export with a watermark. But the kind of cool thing about Knotch is that you're able to create graphics really, really quickly and in real time and in a way that's much more fun and intuitive than you would in a game engine, because this comes from the demo scene, which is kind of a different scene where people are creating audio-visual graphics from the beginning. And also the cool thing about it is that this is only used pretty much in the biggest shows in the world, and it's very niche. So if you do end up learning it and getting good at it, you'll probably find yourself working on some of the biggest gigs in the world like very, very quickly. Because it's pretty much only used for those things. So that's kind of why it's priced the way it is, unfortunately. But also I'll kind of share some other alternatives. You don't have to make your loops in this. You can do them in Blender. You could also use Phil's depth map generator that he went over yesterday, or I actually provided like a ton of these loops myself that you're going to be able to download and use. Or if you don't want to even use those, you can go onto Giphy or Henner or whatever and download black and white trippy animations and use those as input as well. But yeah, so we're going to start off with Knotch here. So let me switch over to this screen. So this is how I have Knotch set up. So in the background here is going to be, this is like the output. So I'm going to go ahead and generate some visuals basically from nothing. So the thing I like to do is just like make a cloner. So this is going to clone my objects. So we're going to make a sphere. So now we have like a grid of spheres. And then make a material, make a tile, kind of texture for it, and we put that in. Oh, whoops. So now it's kind of mapped like that. Actually, I want to do a random cloner. That's how we're going to do it. So this is just going to kind of randomly clone them around by default here. And that's looking interesting. I think I want them to be kind of closer together, and we're going to do scale randomness. And move them a little bit closer.
And a real quick, Spence, just so they know, tell them real quick what they will find in the workflow that you actually uploaded to Civitai.
Yeah, so in the workflow, here, let me pull it up here. So inside the zip that I uploaded to Civitai, you're going to see the TouchDesigner file. You're going to get the Comfy UI workflows, and there's also going to be a bunch of masks for you to play with here. So I included a bunch of them that I've made lots of content with, and we're going to use these as depth maps in AnimateDiff. So even though they're just like straight black and white, we're going to input them as depth maps, and it's just going to kind of creatively interpret and like figure out kind of what it should be. We're not going to run a pre-processor or anything. Like we're just going to say like this is the depth, and we're just going to feed it in. So I included a ton of these, but this is what I'm about to generate in Knotch as well from scratch.
So you guys can download all that from the Civitai link that is at the top of the Twitch chat. So everything Spence is doing now, he's showing you how he takes it from step 0 to where he does, but he included a lot of things so you guys can jump into the AI part of it without having to do any of this stuff.
Yeah. All right, so I've already kind of I just cloned a bunch of circles around, and now I have like mapped this black and white texture to it. So now I want to try to kind of like find a good loop. But I think actually this rotate, I was gonna have it like them kind of scroll through it like this, but now that I just tried rotating it, I think that might be kind of fun. So let's see if I type in 180 here. Oh yeah, it doesn't really do that. You know what? I'm just gonna go for the scrolling. So I'm going to put transform image on here. So this it's going to allow me to basically move the image up and down. And I know that if I move it, let's see, from 0 to 1, it's like the exact same thing. So then what I'm going to do is make a continuous modifier. So what this does is just going to keep counting up. And so if I hook this up to it, now it's just going to keep adding on to that 1 there. So now, with the speed set at 1, every 1 second, it's going to move 1 unit, essentially. And so I actually want to make a 4-second loop, so I'm going to do 1 divided by 4. So now it's moving at 1/4 of that speed. So over the course of 4 seconds now, it will create the loop. So now it's a perfect loop at 4 seconds, essentially.
We had a Twitch question real quick that said, does Knotch have loopable noises like Cinema 4D?
Not exactly, but there's lots of different ways you can get around it. Like for instance, so here's like a noise. And what you can do is you can kind of like move in the Z space of the noise and then like the X space, and you can kind of create a loop that way by like moving through them circularly, but it does not have a perfect looping noise. You could also crossfade between 2 of them that are offset in time, and that could also work, but by default, it does not have a looping noise, unfortunately. Cool. Okay, I think I'm going to change the scale of this and try to find something, maybe an interesting kind of angle. It can be pretty abstract, you know, because we're just going to be using this to make kind of guide comfy. So let's see. Maybe I'll try a different seed. So this is just going to randomly move them in different ways. I think this is kind of cool. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? That's pretty sweet. I'm going to go with that. Okay, so we're gonna say that that's 1 loop here. So I'm just gonna duplicate this layer and go to the next layer. And instead of like putting these layers on top of each other, I'm just gonna look at them. I'm gonna solo them individually so I can just use them to store a bunch of looks that I'm gonna do. So now we have another one. Let's say for this one, we're going to make it a box. And maybe instead of them being all like random angles, we're gonna do a quantize effector. So it's kind of gonna restrict them to in this case, I'm going to restrict them to 90-degree angles like this. They do seem to be overlapping in ways that's not super nice, though. Let's see. You know what? I'm just going to tilt the box a teeny bit just so we fix the overlaps. Yeah, that's okay. So that's also a pretty decent loop. I think, yeah, I'm going to tilt the mapping a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So that's going to be another one. And let's see, what are we going to do for another one? Let's do, I think the last one, we're going to play with some lighting or something. So let's start off with another cloner here. Actually, you know what? Let's do another random cloner. Let's see. You know what? I want it with the quantize and everything anyway. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to use a light this time. Let's see. Where is this light? Why can't I see it? Oh, there you are. Okay. So I'm going to reduce the amount of boxes here. And I don't know, let's just extend it one of these directions here and take off this. It's nice and straight. So that's pretty cool. I think now what I'm going to do is, so I'm cloning them randomly in different directions and then kind of restricting their rotation. So now what I'm going to do is clone this cloner with another cloner. And this one, let me zoom out here. So this one, I'm going to make it a radial cloner. And I think we're going to change it to this direction. So essentially this way, we can clone that other cloner system into another set of clones. I think let's make like it's like 8 of them, I think. And to make this loop, we only have to move it like 1/8 of the way, right? So it's like so it only has to move 1/8 of the way to line up with where it needs to be to loop. So we're just going to do 360 over 8. So that gives us 45 degrees, right? And then on the continuous modifier, we're going to plug this in. And when you plug it in like this, it's actually going to, I can set it so it's just going to multiply. So instead of just replacing the value for what the heading is, it's actually going to multiply it. So so now every 4 seconds, it should hit that exact same point. So it should be a perfect loop. So if I go to 4 seconds here, then I go back to the beginning, yeah, so it is a perfect loop. So that's cool. I'm going to add the lighting back. And let's see, now I'm just going to kind of tweak this until we get it somewhere where it looks kind of cool. Let's try this. I'm going to change the material a bit.
It always blows my mind how quickly things in this and TouchDesigner just render right in front of you.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I switched to this, because I was like super burned from rendering stuff in like Octane and Cinema 4D. It was just like really painful to have to wait so long, especially in yeah, like 2014 when I first started this stuff. It was like really it would take like, I don't know, like minutes per frame, you know, and it would take like 3 days to render like a 10-second loop. And I was like, this sucks. Like, there's got to be a better way.
So
So
I know a lot of people that watch the stream, and a lot of people that are probably in here right now are still probably just a little hesitant to even jump into something like Comfy, because back when you first met me too, I was scared of the Comfy nodes. So what advice would you have for someone that has that kind of like fear of like jumping into and starting to like try to get a grasp on node-based workflows?
I would say it's, yeah, it can seem overwhelming when you first start, but really the way that all of them connect to each other is the real thing that you kind of need to learn and get comfortable with. Like, you don't need to know what every single node does. So it can be overwhelming. You see like all this stuff, you're like, oh, I have to learn every single little piece. But like in reality, it's just kind of the system that you kind of need to learn and like the main concepts. And if you've done anything in 3D before, they're usually pretty self-explanatory. But I'd say the first step is looking at workflows that have already been made and tweaking them, and then the next step from there is really building one from scratch yourself, even if it's extremely basic. And once you start troubleshooting and hitting certain things and then figuring them out, that's when you're going to start to build confidence in your ability to use these softwares. So I would say it looks complicated. And I mean, it kind of is, but at the same time, it's much easier once you've kind of troubleshooted things and kind of gone through the steps to kind of start to figure it all out. And also, compared to like programming or something, I'd say node-based interfaces are much more intuitive and much more easy to manipulate. So I wouldn't be too scared of them. And they seem to be extremely useful and will continue to be really useful as a way for artists to have some more expressive kind of control over these systems and discover stuff that you can't really do otherwise, and also automate things so that you can scale up workflows to do really cool stuff fast. Yeah, so this looks kind of cool. I'm not sure how well it's going to work. So I'm gonna do something to it. So it's kind of cool with Knotch as well, is that you can, like, even though I did this stuff in 3D right now, I can go ahead and start adding 2D effects to this. So for instance, I'm going to add this transform right here, which is just something you could use to scale the video. But you can also give it a mask. So I'm actually going to feed it in this this like box here. And so if I put this box on here, I'm going to set it to the right resolution. And now it's only going to scale it within this box here, which is kind of cool. So now it's going to kind of add another thing to it. Let's see. And when I'm doing these things, I don't really like have a specific goal in mind. Like, I might have certain things I want to try and explore, but like really it's about just like messing around and seeing what you can do, in my opinion. So I think that's pretty cool. So if we move the camera, maybe we can find something even better. Yeah, let's make it a little bit simpler by zooming in. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think we're gonna go with this for this one, and then maybe we'll make another variation of this. Let's see. Hmm. Let's try. Let's try something like ridiculous. There's this one called Mobius Warp in here, which just like screws up everything. Or you know what? No, let's just make one more that's actually different from scratch. So let's see. Let's do a torus, and let's make less clones. Let's just do 2x2, and bring them in a little bit. Let's make them thinner. Add some more subdivisions to make them smooth. And let's see. Let's like scale them up so we get something like this. And then I'm going to do a combined geometry. So this is going to basically combine them all into one mesh so that I can deform it all as if it was one mesh and not 4 individual cloned meshes. So let's try this. Let's do a twist, maybe. Oh, and let me disable visibility for the uncombined one. Okay. So now we've got something kind of interesting here. Let me add some more subdivisions. Maybe make it a little bit thinner. Cool. And now I'm going to add my continuous back so we could make it into a loop. And you see when we're looping it, it's like moving through the deformation, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
So we're just gonna make the scale 90 because it's 90 degrees to get to the loop since it's 4 of them. And we're gonna make the speed 1/4, so it's a 4-second loop. And now we have this. We could take it even farther. Let's see. We could clone this thing now, maybe. That would be kind of crazy. So now we've cloned our cloner. Let's do iterative. You know what? Oh, that's cool. I think I'm going to do it a different way. I think it's going to work out better if I do it in 2D. So I'm going to add a frame feedback. So this is actually going to basically take the previous frame and overlay it so that it just is like sticking there. And we're going to turn it down a little bit. And I'm going to add a transform in here. So now every single frame, it's going to kind of move downward like this. Let's turn this down. So now we've got something like this. Maybe let's make the twist even bigger and crazier now.
Dude, a bunch of the Twitch comments are saying that you're selling them on Knotch right now.
Yeah, it is. I'd say there's a reason why. Yeah, like even though it's expensive, there's a reason why I still use it. It's because it's just super expressive and fun to play with. It's very similar to Cinema 4D. I also have to say the new Unreal Avalanche features in 5.4 are starting to approach this kind of thing, but it's really not going to be the same because this was really built just for this and not to be a game engine. And it's really fun. And I'm just doing very simple like rendering here, which is white, but it does like ridiculously amazing, very complex rendering. Just to show you really quick so you can understand. But it's capable of some absolutely insane rendering here. Let's see what's a good one. I don't even know. There's a lot of them, but yeah, it's capable of like full on incredible 3D rendering, I would say. It does like I wouldn't say it's quite at the level of Unreal Engine, but what the thing is, like Unreal Engine, to get to the same like level of a look, you will be troubleshooting and going through lots of crazy steps that would be really difficult. And it's also very hard to like respond to notes from a creative director in Unreal versus Notch. So there's a lot of reasons why Knotch is the way it is. Yeah, okay. So this is pretty cool. You know, we could try to mess it up more. Let's see. Maybe we'll put in the transform, we can do a, so like how I masked the transform before, we can mask it again, but we'll use like a fractal noise now to kind of distort it essentially. So now it's going to kind of yeah, kind of be a little bit drippier.
We have a question in the chat that said, have you ever attempted to use geometry nodes in Blender to recreate something like this?
I haven't, but from what I've seen from other people using it, it's like it's extremely powerful as well, and I would highly recommend getting into that because it looks really really cool. So yeah, geometry nodes look amazing. Definitely very interesting to me, and yeah, I definitely try to do that. I think you could. There's certain things you could probably do that are even harder to do in Notch with the geometry nodes, and there's certain things that are much easier to do in Notch than the geometry nodes. So it kind of depends.
Oh, FYI, we only see the animation now. We don't see the nodes anymore.
Oh, right. Yeah, here we go. Cool. You know what? I think for the sake of time, we'll probably just go with this for now.
I think this looks sick.
Yeah. And we already have like 5 different ones. Yeah, we're gonna throw that one out. So we have like 4 of them, which is fine. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Okay. So now let's go ahead and render these. So I'm gonna click on the render tab. And these are 4-second loops, so I'm going to render 8 seconds just because the feedback node has a little bit of time to warm up. And we're going to go at 608 by 1080, which is going to be the kind of a reduced resolution. And let's see where we're going to put these.
Pixel Pusher requests that we turn these into spaghetti.
I'm not surprised. Okay, I'm going to change this to photo JPEG. And that should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and start rendering these. And you'll see how fast they run. I mean, because they run in real time, so they render even faster than real time. So you really don't have to, that's like one of the really nice things about Knotch, just renders so fast. All right. So now we've got all those rendered. I'm gonna pause this. We're gonna go back to this screen and we're gonna go to ComfyUI. So we are gonna start fully from scratch here. See, so here are all the 4 masks we just made. I also have a big folder of image references that I've collected. So we're going to be kind of tossing these in. So first we're going to start off with video, load video path. So this is going to load it. I kind of like to use this one instead of the upload one, just because it kind of like to just paste in path. To copy the path in Windows with Windows 11, it's Control-Shift-C. And now I can just paste it in here. And I get it. And since I rendered like the loop twice, I'm going to skip the first 120 frames. And I'm also going to only render every 4 frames so that we're only doing a loop of 30. I'm going to restrict it to 30. So now the full loop was 120 frames. And since we're only selecting every 4th frame, it's going to be 30 frames. This is just going to allow us to see if it works. I think I'm going to bump it up to 60 before we actually start rendering here. So now we have that. We're going to go ahead and do efficient loader. This is just a very easy way to do it. I'm going to do photon LCM, and I'm going to add the animate LCM LoRa a little bit too. So this model is already LCM, but I like to add a little bit more. This is like kind of one of Phil's tricks, is that you can just add a teeny bit more of this LoRa to add a little bit more LCM to emulate the to make it kind of seem like it's has a higher CFG, because we really want to be at a CFG of 1. That's when it runs the fastest. And then let's see. So the frame count is coming out of here, and there's a batch size here. So I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to convert the batch size to input and plug the frame count into there. So that the amount of frames is going to be determined by the load video path. And I'm going to go ahead and do a reroute here because I know I'm going to be swapping this out. And our resolution is going to be 320 by 576. It's going to be our starting resolution. And that really works well with LCM and in general, because we're going to do a high res fix step to bring it up to a higher res before we actually use it. But starting at a lower res is going to ensure that we have much better composition and we're able to test things more quickly. Okay, now let's just kind of get everything else in here that we need. So first off, we're going to need AnimateDiff. And I'm just going to use the legacy one, since it's going to be easy. Plug this into here. We're going to use looped uniform context options, pretty standard stuff. We have to change the beta schedule to LCM, one of the LCM ones. I like to use the square root linear one. And everything else be the same. Then we're going to need IP adapter. I'm going to use IP adapter advanced. Plug this in here. We're going to need to load our IP adapter. Good. Load our clip vision. There we go. And then let's get one of our image references in here. Let's try this one. Paste it in. And we're going to make a reroute because I know we're going to be messing with that. Then I'm going to do image scale to total pixels. So this, instead of scaling image by or scaling to a specific resolution, image scale to total pixels is just going to measure it in like the total area of pixels. And so at 1 megapixels, it's basically 1024 by 1024, like that equivalent resolution. So I'm going to bring it down to 0.25, which is closer to like a 512 by 512 resolution. So even though it's a portrait, it's going to have the same total pixels as like a 512 by 512. And this is kind of how I like to pre-process it for the, to prepare it for the IP adapter. So go ahead and plug that into the IP adapter. And that's pretty much it for the IP adapter. Oh yeah, we're going to change the weight type to ease in out, which seems to be working quite well. And I think that's it for that. Then we're going to do our efficient pace sampler. And yeah. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get rid of, I'm not going to use a negative prompt, and we're just going to use the prompt inside the efficient loader. It's super easy. In this case, we're not even really going to have a prompt. We're just going to use like, we're just going to do like extremely detailed, high quality, studio lighting, 4K. Like we're just going to be like, yeah, make it good. Because we're going to be leaning on the IP adapter pretty much for the entire thing. And yeah, so now I'm going to add some control nets. So I like to use 2 different control nets for this workflow. The first one is going to be depth. So we're going to do control net loader advanced. Going to get our depth here. And let's plug in our conditioning positive and negative. And then let's go ahead and duplicate this. And then the other one we're going to use is control GIF, which shows up as just control net checkpoint. But this is a really interesting, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so this is a pretty interesting control net, which appears to be trained on video. And it seems like it was trained to predict the next frame of video. And when you use it with AnimateDiff, it seems to really just smooth out the motion, which is really, really cool. And it also helps keep the colors in check a little bit from like blowing out or becoming grainy. So it's kind of like a little bit of extra sauce I kind of like to put in there.
Hey, we had a good question in the Twitch chat that I know you're the right man to answer this. So, what does clip skip -1 mean? I always see people using 2 or 1.
Yeah, so that's going to skip the last layers of the clip model, and certain models work better with it. This particular model, I think it's all right. And also I'm not really using clip as much here probably. But yeah, whenever a model says it requires it, you could just change it to -2 and you'll probably get better results from your prompt. But it's really going to change the way that it interprets your prompt and spits out the image. So especially anime models and certain other models, they recommend a clip skip of -2. That's pretty much it. I like for this one, it's been fine at -1. I haven't really honestly tried -2. I'll have to ask Phil if that's the optimal way to use his model, because this is Phil's Photon LCM model, which I absolutely love. And the reason why I chose this model as well is because it sticks really, really well to the IP adapter image. So since I'm really leaning on IP adapter to do all the prompting for me here with a reference image, I'm going to be using this model. And also, since it's LCM, it's going to be crazy fast. I'm going to be able to use very few steps. So I'm just going to hook up the rest of this control net here. Whoops. So it starts with the depth, then we're going to go to control GIF. And for LCM, I like to do the start percent at 0.125 for these and end at 0.75. And for the strength, I'm gonna crank up the depth like pretty hard on this one because I really want it to stick to my maps. But this is something I really play with a lot. So and then for the control GIF, I'm gonna keep it pretty low at like let's do 0.16. And yeah, it's just gonna be in there to kind of smooth things over a little bit. And it looks like we still need the VE. And yeah, we still need to hook up our latent. And oh yeah, we also need to get the depth map to this. So I'm similar to the other one. I'm going to do image scale of total pixels to bring it down to a lower res. I think I'm going to make it 0.4 in this case. So it's going to end up like maybe like 768. If you run into limitations with VRAM, first things I would do is get rid of the second control net and then turn these two down to a lower resolution. So that the resolution coming into IP adapter and into the control nets is lower. That'll lower your RAM and VRAM usage, but all this should be able to run under 8 gigs. And yeah, so let's connect this. I'm gonna connect, even though this is a depth map, pretty much. It's just a black and white map, but we're gonna use it as a depth map. I'm gonna hook it into both the control GIF and the depth, both the same. So it's pretty simple. We're not doing any pre-processing or anything. Then here we have our case sampler efficient. Since we're using LCM, we're just going to go, usually I go with 10 steps, but since we want to go a little bit faster here, just for the sake of getting through the tutorial, we're going to do 8. And we're going to do a CFG of 1, which is very important. You get a major speed up, especially in the high res pass when your CFG is 1. And for the sampler, we're going to do LCM. And that should pretty much do it. All we need now is a video combine to export the video, make it 15. And I'm going to, whoops, name this, let's see. The demo, what we're gonna do, outs 2. And you can put like a slash in here. So this is the file name prefix, so the file name that's going to be exporting the video at. If you put a slash in here, it's basically going to put it inside of a folder, which is pretty cool. Let's see, I have this in the right thing. Yeah, so we're going to do this. I already set up this folder for it. Yep, and slash out. Cool. And we're going to change our format. I like to export in ProRes. It's really up to you. Most people do H.264. If you do H.264, like make sure you turn the CRF down, and that's going to ensure that it gets it's higher quality and not super compressed. Might not matter too much, but well, because we're going to be doing extra steps to stretch it out later, I like to keep it high quality, so I'm going to do ProRes. And just looking it all over, I think that this is good to go. So let's hit Q and see what happens. Cool. So as you see, it's going pretty fast. I'm going to add a high res fix onto here. And on the high res fix, I'm going to do 1.75 for the upscale by. Oh yeah, it's looking pretty cool. If we compare it to the input here. you can see kind of how the depth is driving it to do some cool stuff. It's really giving you more precise control over these generations here. So anyway, with the high res fix, let's make it, I'm just going to do 6 steps to make it fast, but usually I do about 8. And we're going to do a 0.6 denoise strength. And let's hit prompt again. What's cool with the K-sampler efficient and this high res fix script is that it knows it already rendered the low res one, so it's only doing the high res one for the next 6 steps now. So we should get pretty good results out of that. While that is going, I'm going to take my masks here and I'm going to copy them over to another computer because I actually have a second computer set up here so that we can render even more videos in the same amount of time. So I'm going to copy this. Oh, whoops. Copy this address. Yeah, so this is looking pretty good. So, okay, before I get the second computer set up, since this happened so fast. So now we've gotten like the basic setup kind of down. The thing that I like to do is actually then use this to basically just go through a ton of images and all the videos like automatically. So to do this, I actually created my own node because I couldn't really find a node that did this kind of the way I wanted to. So this is in my node pack called CSP nodes. And what it is say vid dir, oh, whoops, vid dir iterator. So it's going to iterate through a directory and give me the video paths. So it's going to give me these video paths for all the videos in the directory. And so I can essentially just say like, I want the 4th video in the folder, and it's just going to give me that video. And if you give it a number that's bigger, it's just going to keep rolling over. So it's going to be able to just iterate through all of them. And yeah, so let's go to masks here. Let's copy the path, paste it in here. And then we're going to right click and convert video index to input. So it can be an input. And we're going to do a seed everywhere and connect this to here and change it to increment. And then we're also going to change the video to input. So now now this viddir iterator is going to be telling it which video to load in the load video. And also I'm going to make a second video combine, and I'm going to make this one H.264, and I'm not going to save the output. I'm just going to use it here to preview the video that it loaded because it's not going to give me a preview otherwise. So I'm going to hook this up here. That'll make more sense when I hit Q. And yeah, and then for the images, I have the same thing. So I have an ImageDir iterator. And so here I can plug in my whole path with all my images, right? So all my images are in this folder. There's like 174 in this one. And same thing, we're going to grab our seed everywhere, expose the image index, plug it in, and I'm just going to offset the value of like this much. So they're going to be incrementing, and this one's going to go 1 through 4 and just kind of keep going over and over, and this one's just going to keep incrementing. So we're basically going to be seeing like a bunch of random masks used with a bunch of random images, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm going to preview which one it's selected here just by adding a preview image. And since I have a reroute here, I can just do that. I don't have to worry about finding out where it went. And yeah, so let's see. If we hit Q now it's going to load. So it's loading this image from the directory, which happens to be at slot 67 or whatever. And it loaded. So this is why I put this video combine here, just to preview which mask it just loaded. And you can see it's starting to diffuse. So that's cool. And now, let's see. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this one going. So I had a second one already prepared, like a cooking show. And we're going to put in the masks into this one too. Boom. And now I'm going to hit Q on this one, and I'm just going to click auto Q. So now whenever it finishes one, it's just going to increment to the next image. It's going to increment to the next video. And it's just going to be pumping out content basically, like infinitely. So you can just run this overnight and just have like tons of content to play with in the morning, right? So it's pretty cool. And this seems to be working pretty well. So what I'm gonna do next, actually, we can keep it. See, it's at 30. Yeah, we can keep, no, I'm gonna make it 60. So we're gonna do 60 frame loops now. And I'm gonna reduce this to every 2. So now, since the loops were 120 frames, we're skipping every 2, so the total frames is 60. So that should still produce the loop. And let me go to my outputs here. I'm just gonna delete the I'm going to delete these first ones here because I don't want to have them at the wrong frame amount. And this should be all good to go. So I'm going to hit extra options, auto queue, and hit go. And so now I've got 2 computers just spitting out random content based on these image references and masks, basically. So it takes probably about a minute per clip. And it's like, the cool thing about this is like, because it's trying so many things, you're going to be able to find all kinds of crazy combinations you wouldn't have even thought of before. I actually ran this overnight with a bunch of them, and yeah, I made like 500 of them or something. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, there's just tons of good ones here, So then it's just kind of like the bottleneck is just like how fast you can review them all later and figure out which ones you want, which is pretty cool. That one is pretty sick, like that. So yeah, that's what's rendering now. Let me go back to our outputs here. And this is the outputs from our second computer. Cool. So while this is going now, we're going to pop into TouchDesigner and do the audio reactive stuff. So,
someone in the Discord chat said the bottleneck was the human all along.
Yes. Basically. That's what you want the bottleneck to be sometimes. Yeah, so this is TouchDesigner. For those of you who have never interacted with it, it's a node-based program, not too dissimilar from Comfy, but it's built for real time. It's based on Houdini, if you've heard of that, and it basically lets you connect anything. There's like many different types of nodes. The top ones deal with pixels, so these are all generate pixels or manipulate pixels. The chops just generate channels like this noise here and values that change over time. SOPs are 3D meshes. DATs are like spreadsheets, basically. And like with all these things combined, you can do literally anything. I use this to control lasers. I use it to control lights. I use it to do projection mapping. I use it to talk to APIs. I use it to run AI stuff inside of the Python here. You can any of the parameters here, like how in Comfy you can expose a certain one and like type in the value. Like here you can actually type in Python and like make references across them and like put expressions in each of them. So it's extremely powerful. It's like one of the best tools for an artist to learn. It's like, I can't recommend it enough. It's just an amazing piece of software. And what's also really cool about it is that the free non-commercial version is extremely capable. It's going to be able to do everything that I'm going to show you today. So the only limitation you're going to run into is that it's limited to 1280 by 1280 resolution, but we're not even rendering that high. And it's pretty rare that you actually do for videos anyway out of AnimateDiff. So this is not really going to be a problem. And if it is, you can always upscale, afterwards or whatever you want to do. So this is the default thing that pops up when you start Touch. I'm just going to go ahead and right click and drag to delete it all. And we're going to start from scratch. So first thing we're going to do is, since this is going to be audio reactive, we're going to go ahead and drop in an audio file in. So this, whenever you drop in an audio file in, it gives you this default sound, and you're about to hear it. First, what I'm going to do is add a null. So I'm just going to middle click on here and type in null. And this is just like a reroute node, basically. It's the same thing. It does nothing. It just is a way to kind of manage your connections. And then from here, I'm going to add an audio device out.
Wait, Spence, real quick. Guys, just so you're aware, what he is building in TouchDesigner right now, this is the TouchDesigner file that he actually put in the workflow for you guys. TouchDesigner is totally free, so you guys could download the program, load up the file that he put onto Civitai, and literally be able to do all the audio reactive stuff he's about to do. So go grab that from the link in the chat. Sorry, Spence.
Yep. Cool. So So yeah, I've hooked up this audio device out. So this is going to actually, like right now I can't hear anything, but this audio device out is going to allow me to actually hear these two channels here. So I'm going to set one of them to my speakers. So this is my speakers here. And then I'm going to make another one, which is going to go to it's going to go to an audio device that you guys can hear. And let's see, let's make sure this works. So Tyler, you can verify that works. You can hear it. Yes. Can you hear that? Okay, I'm gonna assume that you can hear it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, my mic was muted. You made this track with AI, right?
No. So this one, it comes with TouchDesigner by default.
Oh,
Anyone
gotcha.
who's opened up TouchDesigner before knows knows and loves this track.
Okay.
It's funny, but it's just a sample one. I will do some stuff with an AI generated one later, but this one's really good for beat detection, so I'm just gonna go with this.
Cool.
Yeah. And
real quick question.
Yeah.
How more powerful is TouchDesigner compared to Parsec?
I mean, they're not really comparable. I would say TouchDesigner is like a full-on like programming language, whereas Parsec is like a specific tool. This is fully designed for like real-time usage. I would say it's a lot more powerful, but also you have to build everything from scratch. But you could build your own Parsec from scratch inside of here if you wanted to. And I have done something like that before. There's actually like a full-on animation system in here. If you want to see, it's like you can actually have like a full-on timeline with like values and stuff like that, and like actually keyframe parameters over time. Like you could do like whatever you want. It pretty much does everything, and like it gives you all the building blocks to do anything you want. But it really is more comparable to a programming language than another specific tool, I would say. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got this coming in. Well, now we want to detect the beats. So they have already set up in the palette here. There's like a bunch of preset nodes that have already been made. So I'm just going to drop in the audio analysis one. And the cool thing with the audio analysis, so one of the cool things with TouchDesigner is that you see how this came in as like one node, but if you zoom into it, it actually has a bunch of nodes inside of it. And then like maybe inside of there's a bunch of other nodes, right? Like you could just keep going. So you can build really cool like little, basically if you think of each one as like a workflow, you can have workflows inside of workflows, you can reuse them and relink them and then create an entire node with its own interface essentially that you can reuse in all your projects. So this is one of the default ones that comes. What's that?
Wait until we can do that in Comfy.
Yeah. That's one of the things that would be really nice to have in Comfy. Yeah, so we're going to hook up our audio channel into this and hit play. And if I click on the little plus here to activate the viewer, now I can actually go in and move these knobs. So I'm going to enable the kick and the snare, and we can see it's already starting to detect them. I'm just going to kind of move these until it kind of hits that threshold where it's detecting them properly. That seems pretty good. So now I'm going to add another null just kind of to see what's going on here. So this is what's coming out of this node system. And then from here, I like to kind of visualize this using a trail. So this trail node is just going to kind of map it out over time. So you can see. And it looks like the kick and snare kind of being nicely detected there. Cool. So in order to use this to drive our clips, actually, before we get our clips in here, I'm going to use a program called FlowFrame. So this is a free program you can download that will use an interpolation model called Rife. And I like to use this. You can do it in Comfy as well, but this one seems to handle it a bit better than it can in Comfy. So this one, yeah, this is my local drive. So we've already rendered, like we can actually look, like while we've been doing this, we've rendered a few clips already. And these are at 560 by 1008. So yeah, we have all these clips already. They look pretty cool. Sweet. So I'm going to drag in one of them into here just to get the settings going. I'm going to do 8x interpolation and set to 8x slow-mo. And then change, I'm going to do ProRes output. And if I hit interpolate here, it's going to start going. And then while that is going, I'm going to actually go and grab the rest of these and drag them into the queue. And then start the queue. And so now it's going to go through and start interpolating the rest. But we already have one here that's already fully interpolated. So that's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that into TouchDesigner. And I'm just going to rename it because it gave it the name of the movie. I'm just going to call it Move 1. Cool. So we hit play, we can see it's moving at its normal rate. And what we want to do is we want to modulate the speed. So whenever we click on a node, we see like, yeah, the properties in the corner here, and we see we have a speed one. So if we increase it, you can see that it's going to go faster. So we basically want to map it so that whenever a kick is detected, it's going to speed up the speed and then bring it back down. So we're kind of like moving through it with the beat. And to do that, what we're going to do is make a select chop. So this is going to select a certain channel out of these channels. So we got low, mid, high, kick, snare. All we want is the kick. So I'm going to click here, click kick, or I could have typed in kick right here. And then I'm going to rename it to just beat because that way it's going to be easier when I copy it later. So now you'll see this is just getting the kick channel, just the kick channel. Now I'm going to do this thing called a lag chop. And the lag chop is going to basically kind of like make it springier. It's going to add like dampening to it. So you can see it's like trying kind of, it's basically going to smooth it out from being like a hard 0 to 1 to like kind of a smoother interpolation of 0 to 1. And what I like to do for the kick is like take the first value, which is kind of like the attack, if you're familiar with that in like synthesis, and make it 0. So it's still going to go from 0 to 1 really fast, but then kind of recoil back down a little bit lower. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. So it's a little bit faster and snappier. And then, so we could already map the this to the speed, right? Like this. But you see, it's kind of like, it's not really going fast enough because it's just going between 0 and 1. So we actually want to remap this a bit more before we link it up. So what I'm going to do is add a math chop. And we're going to go to the range tab. And so we can say like, instead of going from like, whenever you go from 0 to 1, instead we're going to have you go from like 0 to like 15. And maybe instead of starting at 0, we'll just like do it like 0.1. So that's always kind of moving a little bit or something like that. So actually we'll do like 0.5. So it's always kind of moving and then just speeds up just for the kick there. So you see now it's going like between 0.5 and 15. So now we're going to map that to this value. So yeah, if you click the little viewer thing in the bottom right corner here, and then click on this and drag it over to the speed, and then do chop reference, it's going to automatically make this little Python reference essentially to this channel. And now it's just connected. So that is like the essence of the audio reactive kind of setup. I'm going to make it even faster, actually. Yeah, that's pretty good. And maybe have the ambient speed be a little bit faster. Yeah. So that's kind of the basis of the audio reactive setup. But what I like to do is actually do a kick and a snare. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and copy and paste this to duplicate it. You see this little line here showing that there's a like a reference connection. You see it's still referencing this first one here. So I'm going to go ahead and change it so it references this one. So now they're referenced separately. And where we grab the kick here, instead, we're going to grab the snare this time. So now, yeah, we can grab the snare. It seems like the snare, I think we have to turn the threshold up a bit on it. That's good. And now for the snare, I think we're going to want to have it go way faster. Let's just do like 50. And we're going to want it to stop completely instead. So now you see the top one's moving to the kick, bottom one's moving to the snare. Now let's see, I think we our clips, most of them have finished here. So we have all these ones that have already been interpolated. So I'm just gonna right click to view the parameters here just to get them open and move my screen around a little bit. So now we are gonna have two separate videos here. I'm just gonna drag in a second video for the snare one now. So now we have this going, and now just to kind of show you exactly where we're going with this, this is the workflow. So this is essentially where we're trying to end up. So I'm gonna show you now how we kind of we use a little trick to kind of turn the snare animation into this like flashing kind of outline that goes in the darker parts of the kick content. You know, and let me just, I'm going to turn off the AnimateDiff on here for now because it's probably rendered many clips. Let's just, I'm just going to cancel that. And you know what, let me queue up the rest of them in flow frames so we can see those in the background. It seems like the last one we did was 7. And since then we have 3 more. Let's just put those in the queue. Whoops. Cool. Yeah, so now let's figure out how to get this kind of look really cool. So first thing I'm going to do is make a cache node, cache top. So tops are for pixels, chops, which are these green ones, are for data, like flowing values. And this one, I'm going to use it to essentially delay the frame by 2 frames. So I'm going to change this output index parameter. The cool thing about one of the cool things about Touch is if you middle click on a parameter, it lets you change it like this. So you can change it by like 10, or you can change it by like 0.001, like very easily using the middle click. But in this case, I'm just going to do -2. And then I'm going to use a composite node. And the composite node, exactly as it says, it just composites 2 pixel tops together. And the blend mode I'm going to use here is actually going to be difference. So difference is going to try to find the difference between this one, in this case, and the one that's been delayed 2 frames. And what this results in is you kind of only see the part that's changing rapidly. So this is kind of the recipe that we use to get that really fast, snappy snare animation into the composite. So now let's go ahead, see what we want to do here. I'm gonna put a null here. This is just like a reroute basically. I'm gonna space this out just a little bit more so we have some space to work. Now we're going to do, let's make this. Let's put a bloom on here. So this is going to be a this is like a glow effect. So we can essentially like make it glowier like this. I think actually what I'm going to do as well is put a HSV adjust here, which is basically like a color correction inline. I'm going to turn the saturation down a bit and turn the value up so it's like going to be bright no matter what. This is going to kind of guarantee we get a good snare no matter what. On the bloom intensity a bit, yeah. Cool. And now I'm going to do something I thought was kind of fun when I was putting this together. I'm going to use this node called HSV to RGB, and this is just going to like convert the colors from red, green, and blue to hue, saturation, and or it's going to convert the hue, saturation value into red, green, and blue. It just like gives it this kind of cool look. So it's just going to kind of change the look of the graphics a little bit. So I'm just going to throw that in there. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a threshold node. So it's just going to grab a threshold, and I'm going to threshold the first one. And I think in this case, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask the snare animation using this threshold. And I'm going to do that with another composite node. So I think I'm going to put it in right here. Composite. And we're gonna do it like this, and we're gonna use a multiply. Oh, you know what? Let me change the alpha to be 1 because we don't want alpha. So I'm gonna use multiply, and so since it's like we're giving it something that's black and white, like, and it's multiply, everything white is going to be multiplied by 1, and therefore it'll go through, and then everything black is going to be 0, so everything multiplied by 0 just becomes 0. So it's essentially going to mask it so that we're only going to see this snare thing within the boundaries of this threshold now. And now we're going to composite this on top of the kick. There'd be another composite node. So we're going to take the one that's glowing, put it on top, and we're going to use an add blend mode. So it's just going to add the two together. Let's see what we got here. So we're already getting pretty close here. I think we just need to adjust this threshold. Yeah. So this is, I would say, pretty much like the basic setup for it. And now we can try doing this with like lots of different clips, right? So you can start loading up all kinds of different ones. Yeah, it feels like this isn't really. Let's see.
Hey, and Spence, just so they know, because you know, when you look at TouchDesigner, if you never used it before, if you go look at the website and you look at like their pricing structure, it could be like they don't need anything more than the free one to do any of this, right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, the only limitation you'll run into is the resolution, which is the maximum resolution is 1280 by 1280 for any of the nodes in the free version, but we're running at 560 by 1008, so it's not really a not going to be a limitation here, which is cool. And so let's say this is well, actually let's try a few more and see if we can find something that works pretty well. Let me figure out this threshold here. It's definitely not right yet. I think, does it need to be greater? Yeah, there we go. Now it's in the dark areas. Okay, so that's what I wanted. Let's try some different ones. So the different loops we made. One. Let's try this one. Okay, so let's go with this for now. So now let's say we want to render this out and actually create a movie with it. So we're going to use the movie file out top. Where is it? Movie file out right here. Okay. Another limitation, you can't export as H.264 with the free version, but you can use the default, which is photo JPEG and MOV, which is totally fine. Also, I'm going to save this before I keep going so that I can so basically wherever I save this project is where it's going to save this video by default. So I'm just going to do this. And so you need to put in the audio. So it's not going to know which audio to use in your project. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this null, which contains our audio, into this audio chop input here. So now it's getting that reference. And we should be good to go. So now if I, whoops. So now if I hit record, now it is recording in real time. And like I could even start dragging in different clips and trying stuff in real time if I want to. Cool. So now if we turn off record, untoggle it, let's go see if it worked. And yeah, here it is. So if I double click it, yep. So yeah, that is essentially like the basic idea of this entire workflow. So you can do a lot more with it. There's a lot more like fancy tricks you can do in this setup. The way, actually, you know, before I go too deep into it and show kind of the way that I use it, I definitely like to open up to questions and see kind of now that we've kind of like reached this point. But then next I'm going to show you like the more like the full system that I use to create the visuals that are on my Instagram.
Anyone got any questions for Spence right now? We're pretty caught up on questions from the Twitch and
Cool.
Discord.
All right. I'm gonna
Yeah,
save this.
the main question is, how do you even?
One step at a time. But yeah, this is at least fairly easy to understand. The one that I put in the up on Civitai has notes in it that make it easier to understand. So I'll open that one really quick right now just to show you. And let's close this. And oh, you know what? We can look. I didn't even see this stuff on the other computer. Yeah, so this is the one.
So here, real quick, Spence, we have a question in Discord that says, outside of TouchDesigner and Knotch, what creative software has got you excited / would you suggest for people that are curious about getting deeper into this kind of stuff?
I'd say the new Unreal Avalanche setup is like kind of the next kind of cool real-time motion graphics system that's coming out. There are also a thing called cables.gl that looks pretty cool. I know PERS uses it. And it's also a node-based real-time system that runs in the browser. So this is running real-time right now. And if you click in here, you can, oh yeah, there's like lots of videos showing you how to use it. Another free tool is called Tool 3. And this is an open source, it's kind of like an open source Knotch in a way. It has like some limitations, of course, but it is a fully open source, free, node-based real-time graphics generation program as well. I also really like using Ableton and Max MSP for certain things. So like kind of like the Max for Live devices setup. And yeah, those are a lot of the main tools I use. In terms of 3D, I would usually use Cinema 4D, but these days I would mainly recommend just learning Blender because it's just so powerful. There's such a big community behind it, and it's completely free. And it actually is genuinely more capable than Cinema 4D at this point. So, but a lot of the stuff I was playing around with in Knotch with the cloners and deformers and stuff like that was kind of adopted from Cinema 4D, and they were kind of the first ones to have those really expressive, like fun to use 3D tools. So now we're starting to see that with the geometry nodes in Blender. The main thing that kind of kept me from learning Blender was really just like these cloners and deformers and effectors that were just so much fun to play around with to make motion graphics. So now that we kind of have things like that in Blender, it's definitely a route to go towards. And yeah, now with Unreal's Avalanche system, kind of show you. Yeah, like it's basically able to do a lot of the same kind of stuff that I was doing in Knotch, but it's more focused on kind of like broadcast graphics, but it's able to do it all in real time in a more simplified way than it would be in Unreal normally. And it does have like cloners and like effectors and stuff like that, but it's still going to be Unreal at the end of the day, and Unreal is a very complicated, unwieldy beast, and Knotch is really a completely different kind of system. I'd say like Tool 3 and cables.gl are more in line with kind of tool that Knotch is versus Unreal 5. But see, you could do some pretty cool stuff in the new Unreal systems as well.
So here's
oh yeah.
Oh no,
yeah,
go on.
No, you.
We had a really good question in Twitch that said, if you could go back in time when you were first learning like Knotch and TouchDesigner and stuff and give you advice when you were first starting, what would it be now from like your current knowledge level?
I don't know. I think learning, like not being afraid to kind of like dive into a bit of programming is good. For me personally, I didn't really get super into like sculpting, but it kind of would have been cool to learn a bit of that as well. I'd say like above anything else, like the most important thing kind of being successful in graphics is like being really passionate about something you want to do, like not even something that's even that marketable, but like something that you really want to do and you really want to accomplish, and like using that project to kind of get you through the learning process. And for me, that was essentially creating, I wanted to really make a real-time system that could be used to visualize music. And I tried to use Ableton and hook up all these things, and like just through the process of trying to tackle that problem, I kind of like learned all this stuff that I would never have learned any other way. So I'd say like if there is anything to like recommend to be kind of successful in that space, it's like you really like find the one thing that you really want to do, and like you see something that's amazing, you're like, I want to do that and I want to do it even better. Like try to like really focus on that and try to accomplish it. And like just by like focusing on that and like learn, like do a few tutorials to like get into a certain program, and then start to like just move towards the thing you want to do as fast as you can. And that'll really drive you to discover these things and like learn it as quickly as possible. And definitely also post all of your stuff around, find the right communities to post it in. For Knotch, it used to be this Facebook group, and there were very few people posting on there. So when I started posting a bunch of crazy stuff, I ended up getting hired pretty quickly from that, because there's just not that many people that are doing Knotch for various reasons. It's not very well known publicly, partially because of the price, and also because it's like just a very niche kind of software. TouchDesigner is becoming a lot bigger these days, with a lot of artists kind of taking notice of what's going on here. And there's lots and lots of tutorials for TouchDesigner online. I definitely recommend getting into it. Also, there's been lots of things I have kind of like started to learn, or like learned for like a specific task. Like there's many times where I like learned like Python at least enough to do like the one thing I needed to do, and then like I wouldn't touch it for months, and the next time I needed to do it, like I had to relearn it a little bit. And that happened for TouchDesigner for me. That happened for Unreal for me as well, and for Python. Like I probably learned them like 3 times or 4 times before I finally like used it enough for a project that I like really got comfortable with it and like picked it up. And actually, that's how it is for Blender. I've used it for a few projects, but never really fully adopted it. So that's kind of one thing to be aware of. I wouldn't say it's like you have to, if there's something that you really want to learn and like be using, like you really have to use it a lot and constantly to be fully comfortable in it, I would say. Yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. Yeah, so this is the setup that I put in the Civitai model page. So I put some labels here. It's like you put the audio file here that you want to do. This is where you set your audio device. Here's the audio analysis. This is where you change the speed of the ramps, and how fast it moves through the videos. This is where you put in your 2 video files, and then the compositing happens and you record the video here. So this is kind of the basic setup. The way I'm previewing it in the background here, by the way, is just this button here. So that's just a way to preview it in the background of your node graph. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the basic setup. Now I can show you, I guess, what the full kind of thing looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this. Yeah, these are going here. Let's launch this. Let me connect controller here. So, and with that setup, I was, like clicking and dragging, putting in values manually, in to kind of determine the audio reactivity and stuff. In this case, let me make sure this is, let's see. Okay, let me route this to you guys. Cool. So this is the actual setup that I use for my videos, and there's a lot more going on here, as you can see. The whole time remapper thing, which was I just showed you, it's basically just contained within this one node. So this is where that whole setup is, and then everything outside of here is extra stuff. So I have a thing that basically loads up all these, like it looks through the whole folder and lists out all the movie files in the folder, and then I can switch between them, actually using a controller. So let me view this really quick so I can just mute it for a sec. So I actually, oh wait, let me mute it for myself too. Hold on. Okay, so in this case, you see there's actually like two of them, and let me, oh, do I not have control of this? Oh no, is my control not going to work? Let me see. Oh, you know what? I think Knotch is it's using my twister here. You know what? Let me shut down Knotch. I guess we'll save what we made. Sure. Okay. I have to relaunch this because it looks like the twister is not working. Yeah, hold up. Let's relaunch it. Yeah, it was just hogging my MIDI controller. Give it a sec. Okay, there we go. So in this setup, the kind of content I render is a little bit different. And yeah, I have control over the speed with this. So let's see, is this gonna work? Oh, not quite. Okay, hold up. So oh yeah, it needs to come out of Knotch first. So I have control over the speed with like some knobs that I have over here. So I use this MIDI
Oh,
controller.
Spence, we lost your OBS stream.
Oh. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Okay. Press the wrong button there. Yeah, so I have this MIDI controller that I've hooked up to a lot of the parameters here, and so this is going to allow me to control the speed. Let me fire up the Knotch setup in the background. So instead of compositing them and doing the effects inside of TouchDesigner, I actually pipe it back to Knotch in real time using this protocol called Spout. And also, instead of just rendering the color pass of the video, what I do is I do depth detection on it. And then I also do MLSD lines. So I'm using a bunch of preprocessors. And then I process all of those for all the videos that I like. And then I attach it as a second output to my clips. So the clips end up looking like this. I'll show you. So they end up looking like this essentially. So I get open pose, I get depth, and I get these lines essentially. So,
But you
so
do realize you can't see your screen now,
oh yeah,
right?
whoops. Yeah, here we go. Sorry. So essentially, I render out the clips and I find the ones that I like, and then I run it through this other workflow in Comfy that just runs all the preprocessors. And green is the depth, blue is open pose, and red is the these MLSD line detection. And this essentially gives me some extra stuff to play with in Knotch, because I can go ahead and separate out the red, green, and blue channels afterwards, and then overlay them and do more complicated effects. So this is kind of a way that I've been adding complexity to the system to make it a bit more expressive. And just like I had it in the other workflow, I have one for the kick and one for the snare, and then those get combined together. And then I also have this other output, which actually shows a lot of the knobs and stuff that I'm playing with. And so this is able to basically show kind of what's going on in the TouchDesigner setup, and I overlay this in Knotch as well. So I combine all these three things together into this one 1344 by 3360 pixel map, and then this gets sent to Knotch using this node called siphon spout out. And so what this does is it puts it somewhere in your GPU, like in the memory, and then Knotch, just based on the name, which is this name you put here, it knows like where to grab it, and then it can pick it up. And so that's what this is. So now I can kind of show you how this actually works. So this here, and then I have a preset system, which I've set up here. And so this actually allows me to whenever I find like a set of settings that work really well, I can set them as presets here for the knobs and also for the content as well. And let's see, I hit play and Knotch here. Oh yeah, let me set the audio device for you guys. To this one. Oh, you know what? Let's do it this way. D. Cool. Okay, and let me control our volume here. Yeah. So this is some music I generated in Udio. Okay. So I have it hooked up here. Yeah, you'll probably be able to see it now. Yeah. So I actually have it set up on. I have a game controller here that actually changes the threshold of the kick and snare detection. So if we go back to this screen, you can see up in the on the right side here, these threshold knobs are moving. So that's on my controller, and then also I can manually drum on the controller to move these things. So you see whenever I push this, it's like gonna flash through the thing. So I can like completely manually just button match to the beat essentially. And then while I'm doing that, I can also be adjusting values on here, which basically control the clip speed and kind of how fast it moves through each of these clips. And then there's a few other things to kind of control, like the way that they are blended together, and also like the colors. This one's like pretty desaturated, but yeah, so this is kind of what it looks like all together essentially. Put the detection back on. Yeah, it's probably detecting too much. So I kind of like watch the graph essentially to see how it's detecting the kicks. Yeah, and I can move through all of the looks basically by using the shoulder buttons. So every time I hit the top shoulder button, it moves through different ones for the snare. And then whenever I hit the trigger buttons, it moves through different ones for the kick. So I can basically just like move through all these clips like very quickly. And whenever I see something I like, I basically just hit record in OBS over here in the Stream Deck. And that's essentially how I make all the videos. So they're all recorded in real time as I'm just playing with them here. And if I see a song, if I see something working, what I'll usually do is just like I'll re-record the song a few times until I get it right, and then take the best take, and then kind of go from there. But that is the majority of the setup. On the Knotch side over here, so this is how I'm compositing everything on the Knotch side. So instead of doing all that stuff I was doing in TouchDesigner to detect the to get kind of like the edge and stuff like that, I'm doing it all in Knotch here. So the main video comes in here. Let me go to the screen. So this is essentially what is coming into Knotch. It has like all of my passes, and then switch over to here. Then it gets split up. So this is like the first slice, and then this is like the color, and then the packed one. Go here, so it's easier. And then from there, I can split it up into the three. So like it comes in red, green, and blue overlaid onto each other, and I split them out. So I get the lines, the depth, and the open pose separately here. And then from there, I can kind of play around in Knotch to composite them all together and do lots of cool stuff. And then I have like these graphics from TouchDesigner that are kind of overlaid as well. So those come in through here and go through it. And then I have like a bunch of different looks that I play with here. So I can make many different versions of this compositing setup in Knotch here. Pretty much everything I'm doing here could be done in TouchDesigner, but like, as you guys have seen, Knotch is very like expressive and like very fun to play with. It's much quicker to kind of iterate through these things in Knotch, but it's you're totally able to do this with other softwares as well. But I just love the way it works in Knotch. So yeah, that is pretty much the whole setup. Also, yeah, I do have some values here. So these are like knobs that that I'm getting from my MIDI controller, and so they can come in through these channels here. and I can use those to drive certain effects as well. I can get the kicks and the snares that are being detected, and those values come into here as well, so I can use them to drive animations inside of just Knotch as well. Yeah, I mean, I could spend a lot of time explaining every bit of this, but I'll probably leave it at that for now, and take any final questions you guys might have.
Twitch, you guys got any final questions for Spence before we close this up? This has been absolutely insane, Spence. Thank you so much. Holy cow.
That's my pleasure.
Like, I see the stuff you make, and I'm like we, we sit there in Discord and we talk and stuff, but it's different seeing like what you're actually looking at on the full like scope of your screen there.
Yeah, once you like put everything together, like I've spent a lot of time building this system. It's not like I just made it in one go. I did it as fast as I could for this, and as simply for this thing. But you saw like the full system is pretty big. It's not like I came up with this all at once. It's been a process, building everything piece by piece, building it once, then being like, oh, I wish it worked this way, And so I'll go and spend the time to build it again, and then play with it again. And it's fun to be in a position where you can both be creating with the tool and then responding to that and creating the tool itself. And so when you're like the people that are at the like in between the technical and the artist side of things that are able to create the tools and use the tools and find a balance between those two modalities, like that's really, really powerful to me. And that's what really, really interests me. And one of the things that these like people that are like these technical artists that do this, it's like they get very caught up in the technical stuff and they forget the creative part. And so it's always kind of trying to find the balance between the two, and kind of figure it out. So yeah.
We had a question in Twitch that said, are you full PC based, or is there some Mac equipment in here too?
Right now it's all PC. Notch only works on PC, unfortunately, but TouchDesigner works extremely well on the Mac. It's like the best on the Mac, I would say. I mean, there's some features that are NVIDIA specific that you can't get, but for the most part, it runs beautifully on a Mac. So I would say you're not super limited by that. Like in terms of comfy UI and rendering stuff with AnimateDiff, like that's best done on a PC. Notch only runs on PC, unfortunately, and trust me, they are not going to budge on that one. But yeah, I personally, I really like the interface of Mac OS a lot more than Windows, but because of what I do and the tools that I like to use, I'm pretty much always using Windows.
Damn. Looks like that is it, unless anyone has any last questions here before we close this out. Yeah, Spence, honestly, dude, can't thank you enough. I know this was super eye-opening for me. I hope this inspired, we've consistently had somewhere between like 500 and 600 people watching this entire time. So I hope that this really like inspires you guys to go out and just like start messing with all these other tools and mashing it into everything that we already do with AI, because that's how this stuff is really going to get pushed forward and isn't just going to fall off as being like a trend or some like, just flashing moment we were a part of. The continuous integration with all these other tools and how we tie it into like these projects that we really want to make is what's going to keep pushing this stuff and keep it growing and inspire people to keep training better and better models, and guys like Spence to keep tweaking away at this and making these really insane workflows. Dude, thank you so much. I can't actually say thank you so much. That was a complete masterclass that you gave us, and we were all very privileged to be able to just sit here and watch that for the past hour and a half. So thank you.
That was my pleasure. Always fun to kind of share this stuff. So yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me on.
Real quick before we sign this off, tell them where they can follow you on social, what platforms you're most active on, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. It's Cerspense, spelled same way here. And then on Twitter, it is also Cerspense as well.
So guys, go follow this man because he should have way more than 1,400 followers on Instagram. So I had to give him a little talk and tell him that he has to actually be posting his stuff more often. So go follow Spence, keep up with everything he's doing. We're definitely gonna get him back here sometime in the future to blow our minds again. Spence, thank you, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was fantastic.
Twitch, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This will be on YouTube by Monday. So if you missed any of this, or if you just want to rewatch it and follow along, this will be on YouTube by Monday. Spence's Civitai profile is spelt the exact same way. You see it on his Instagram right now. So the link is at the top of the Twitch, or you can just go search on it. You can download this workflow, and Spence, real quick, tell them everything they'll find in the zip file on the workflow at that page. Oh, wait, you're muted. You're muted.
Right. So in the zip, we have a bunch of masks for you guys to play with, so you don't have to make them in Knotch. You can just drag these in and start playing around. Also have the Audi reactive time set up in TouchDesigner, and it has comments everywhere, so it's much more easy to understand. Also the workflow that I used, also a little bit more organized than you saw on stream. And that's pretty much it. This one's just recorded. It's not this one's not in the pack, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Dope. So he put together the full package suite for you guys, so you could actually go in and mess around with this and make something along the lines of what we just saw. Twitch, we will be back Thursday with our usual video and animation stream, and next week Friday we're going to have Noah Miller on, who is one of our Civitai artists in residency. And it's not going to be so much a tutorial. We're just going to be talking about AI in film and animation, and kind of what him and I have experienced over the course of the past year since we've been working in it consistently, and what we've kind of seen and where we think it's going. So if you're into a more podcasty type thing, that's what we're going to be doing next week. And let me just pull up my calendar here real quick and see who is after that, because I actually got the next 2 months planned out for you guys. So after Noah on the 19th, on the 26th, we got Phil, aka Machine Delusions, circling back with us, and he's gonna you already know that he's gonna do something crazy after that last thing he did. And then man, I can't even tell you guys about May yet, but I will say that in the middle of May, we do have someone who works very closely with Spence coming on. His name is Dot Simulate, and Dot actually created Stream Diffusion, which is the real-time stable diffusion renderer for TouchDesigner. So, Spence, is there something we can just show on your screen real quick since I still have you up? Like,
I hear some stuff from Dot. Well, this is like someone else using his tool, but it's real-time interactive stable diffusion inside of TouchDesigner. So you're able to use video, it basically do vid to vid in real time, along with all kinds of other crazy stuff. He's absolutely amazing. Definitely not one that you're going to want to miss. So
yeah, Dot's going to be joining us in the middle of May. Can't wait for that one. So guys, this is Civitai.com. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Monday with our standard office hours stream, and we will catch you guys next week. Twitch, we love you. The VOD will be published as soon as this goes off. It'll be uploaded to YouTube by Monday. Peace. Thank you, Spence.
Yeah, thanks.
Dude, Spence.